to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast with Borg, Betz, and a baller.
Welcome in. It's Wednesday, March 27th. The boys are back. My name is Kyle Borganoni, and I am joined by Mike Wright and Matthew Betz.
Hello,
what's going on,
boys?
everybody?
Welcome back, Mike, from Florida.
Thank you.
Beautiful Florida. What a state, am I right?
Hey, the weather was actually, it was all right. It was all right. There was a couple really hot days, but for the most part, it did just fine.
And I got to ask you, Mike, is
Yep.
the world better than the land?
So it is.
Disney, for those wondering at home.
If you say Florida and mention Mike Wright, you know what's happening.
True.
It's very different. It's so gigantic over there. Truly, the world is the appropriate name. And there's a lot of stuff they do better than Disneyland, but there's a lot of stuff that they do worse. So when people, I've usually pressed people on that question too, because I hadn't been to Disney World in like 20 years or so, because that's how old I am. But I always push people to be like, well, Disneyland's better, but it's a complicated question.
Yeah, I grew up East Coast boy going to Disney World, and my kids haven't gone yet, but it is kind of a different experience where I know the three of y'all, you guys are Disneyland enthusiasts.
Yes.
So just give me your favorite ride real quick before we get into this rookie draft.
Disney World ride?
Disney World.
Disney World, I think the best ride was the Seven Dwarf Train. It is a combination, like it's half roller coaster, half dark ride, like a Fantasyland ride. But the coaster is just so smooth. I don't know how they built that one and why they don't build all the other ones this way, but it was the smoothest. And normally when you're walking by, when you're at a park and there's just roller coasters going by and they're so loud and so obnoxious, this one is not. You can be right next to it and it's really not that loud. So the tech exists. Disney, let's rebuild all the rides and use this tech. Let's quiet them down. I'm too old for your noise.
I mean, there's not much financial investment they have to make to just
it'd be fine.
retool everything.
Yeah.
They could do it. We are glad that you're with us. This is a special episode because
that makes one of us.
you're going to get to file this away because over the next month, you're going to be sweating your rookie draft. And on this episode, we're going to be giving you our tips and tricks. Last year, we got to highlight. We're giving you 6 new ones. So if you're one of those people that said, hey, I'm a sicko, what did we say last year? You can actually go back to last year's episode. And a lot of the things we talked about still matter. And the tips and tricks we give will be on our website as well. So rookie drafts are right around the corner. I do think this is the point of the year where overthinking is happening. And we're just getting so many different rumors.
What are you talking about, JJ McCarthy?
Can we talk about that real quick? Because
yes,
please.
Let's do it.
Betz, you kind of have the a better feel of like where the betting markets are and how things have changed. We went into February thinking, oh well, he might sneak into the first round, and now we're getting talk that he could go second overall. So like, what's the pulse on JJ McCarthy, and then we'll kind of scale it to what does it mean for Dynasty?
Yeah, I haven't seen the lines as of today, but he went from like 2,200 to be the second pick to plus 800 overnight with I think it's the current coaches meeting going on or owners meeting or whatever that's currently happening. And, in our Discord for jointhefoot.com members and UDK Plus folks, people are talking about, like, what do you think? Like, are we chasing the steam? Are we placing a bet here? And it's like, man, doesn't this happen literally every year?
Yes.
It feels
every
like
year. Every year there's a Will Levis. There's who was the
Mac
guy 2 years
Jones.
ago or 3 years ago?
Malik Willis?
Who is it?
Yeah, Malik Willis. Yep.
A couple years ago. And I'm not saying JJ McCarthy isn't going round one. He certainly is. But every year people overmock quarterbacks because it's like the hype is there, the steam is there, everyone's so excited. But like you said, just 2 months ago, we were like, it'd be really nice if JJ McCarthy was a top 15 guy, right? And now we're like, second overall. Hey, maybe they go number one over. It's like, come on, guys. Like, let's just take a step back. Let's just take a step back and remember kind of where we're at. So I'd be surprised, is all I'll say.
I feel like most of the mock drafts either have him to the Vikings at 11, like they've already assumed the Vikings are trading up, or they penciled him in at one of those, 2 or 3 recently, but there's just so much talk right now. Even, mock drafts we're seeing, we're like, oh, the Cardinals are going to trade away Kyler Murray, and it's like there's just
I will not even
farts.
acknowledge that mock draft.
I'm begging NFL mock drafters to A, stop predicting so many trades, and B, make them realistic. Kyler Murray is the quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals.
Well, it was this particular one. I assume we're all talking about the same one. It
On
was
ESPN.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
It was Kyler Murray, who opinions on Kyler Murray are pretty wide ranging. I'll admit that, but I think that Kyler Murray, in my opinion, is a franchise quarterback. Like, that's his level. He's not just a starter. I think he's a franchise quarterback, and I think that is like not everyone has that opinion, but there's enough of that opinion. And this trade was Kyler Murray, franchise quarterback, and a third rounder to get pick 11 in the NFL draft. Like, guys, we've seen what quarterbacks cost in draft picks. We've seen what old quarterbacks who when the Kansas City Chiefs are, everyone knows they're getting rid of Alex Smith, and then what they get, like 2 2s, and you're talking about Kyler Murray, young franchise quarterback, can get a first. I mean, come on
It's
now.
that time of year.
Yeah.
March
That's all I'll
is
say.
the time. It's the time for hot farts, because you got to put out something. And I purposely chose for us to talk about this topic today about rookie draft, because we're in this season where you're just overthinking almost every single decision. So my question for us about JJ McCarthy is, does it really change how you feel about him fantasy-wise if, let's say, we do get 4 quarterbacks in the top, 7, 8 picks, whatever? Does it really change your view about fantasy compared to May and Daniels for him?
I think
Go ahead, Betz. I'll let you go first.
I was going to say, I think for me, it just gives you a little bit more confidence that, like, this is probably not a 1 year, like, yeah, we'll take him, if he falls to 12 or 13 or whatever the teams are that I don't have it off the top of my head, but wherever he falls, and it's like, oh, yeah, the Vikings just snagged him and he fell, like, then maybe they give him 1 year and you kind of see. If the Vikings, in fact, do give up their 2 first-round picks and go up, to 4 or 5 or whatever and grab him, like, they're clearly making an investment, not just for this year, but I think for next year, to say, hey, you've got 2 years to be the guy. We'll see what you can do. So I think it gives me a little more confidence just in general in the outlook for this year and next year. But as far as like where he goes, as far as the ranking of those quarterbacks, assuming it is 1, 2, 3, 4 off the board, I think I'd still take the rushing upside of Jaden Daniels. I still think May. There's a lot of smoke right now about the NFL not being in love with May. I don't get it personally. I still think May is a really good prospect.
Yeah, I agree with Betz that it gives you more security knowing you aren't just totally, from a longevity standpoint, you're not setting your rookie pick on fire. But I mean, we're going to talk about locations of draft locations for this. But I would say if JJ McCarthy goes to the Minnesota Vikings in particular, that's pretty hard to not get excited about playing with the best wide receiver in the NFL, a first-round wide receiver taken last year, Hawkinson coming back off of his injury. Like, that's a strong trio of people to pass to. And if you're going to put up any sort of fantasy points, being a more of the prototype of, like, you're not getting all the points from your legs, you got to have dudes who can ball out. So it would mess up how people are thinking about rookie quarterbacks for sure. That particular landing spot for McCarthy. Yes,
and with McCarthy, the biggest thing is we just didn't see many dropbacks compared to the other players who are getting 30-plus dropbacks a week. So there is a lot still unknown, but if you want to go back to our quarterback episodes, we went through and evaluated every single player, and I think we all came away saying, wow, I like McCarthy more than I thought I would. Like, we all came into it saying, like, okay, well, they won the national championship. What was really there? Was he a game manager? And he was more than that. So I think all of us like McCarthy. I think we'd be shocked if he went number 2 overall. But Minnesota is probably the best landing spot. If you want our rookie rankings, they are there in the Ultimate Draft Kit. You can go to udkplus.com. Rookie rankings, startup rankings. I've been looking through our startup rankings this week of just finding out, okay, this is where things shook out after free agency. Like, this is your take on this backfield. And So much changes. Make sure you go to udkplus.com if you want all of that. But let's talk about some rookie picks.
Tips and tricks.
I like this show because I never have any idea what drop Kyle is going to use for these segments.
I also love it because your past self didn't know that it would be used on a different show.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't even remember making that.
Was it you? Was it an alternate self?
At this point, who knows?
Before we get into our tips and tricks, I wanted to ask what rookie picks you personally hold on to, and I kind of knew where Mike was going to go with his answer.
I hold on to the championship trophy, which I had to sell. Basically, I have a third rounder this year in the main Dynasty League. In the Dino Junior that we reference a lot, that's the team that Jason and I manage. I think we are the 109, and we hold incredible amounts of regrets because we just inputted everyone's draft pick. Like, we got the draft orders all set up for the league so everyone can start, making the arrangements. And Kyle, we had been offered a trade right before the season started yet again of one manager in our league wanting to just do the head-to-head.
I love that.
Trade first, like it's a full bet on your team. I'm going to trade my first to you because I think my team will be better than yours at the end of the year, which we did that 2 years ago, won a championship, and then we were at like the 107 or something, I think, and we ended up with Zay Flowers. We were offered that trade again for just a tiny amount of time. We didn't take it because we didn't have enough time to think about it. It is the second pick in the draft. So we would have been able to trade our 109-ish for probably Malik Neighbors, and I am devastated.
It is the highest of testosterone moves in Dynasty.
Dude, it's great. So I'll run through that one more time. If you've never heard of this,
it's hilarious.
It is literally like it is just a 1-for-1 trade. My first rounder for yours, because just think about it. Whoever finishes better has the worst pick, and so you are telling one team, your team sucks. I want your pick. And they're like, no, your team sucks. I want your pick. It's really, really fun.
I believe that this happened when you're at the live show.
That is where it came in again this year. As we were about to take the stage for the Megla show, I got a notification that a trade had been sent to us, and we just didn't. We should have taken it.
It's like
better yourselves, people.
Betz, what picks do you have in some of your main leagues?
Yeah, I've got kind of a mixed bag, a couple in the middle range, like the 106 to 107-ish range, but I've got a bunch in the late first, and, I did a little pre-scouting on this class, which I don't really do a lot of that in season, but I know a lot of other people were talking about, hey, it's a deep class, go get some seconds, so I've loaded up on a bunch of seconds, so I've got a bunch of like 201, 203-ish range, which I'm excited about. But one of my moves after doing a couple of the mock drafts on this show as well as in the Dynasty Pass, I was like, man, it really does feel like that tier break comes pretty quick at like 109 to 110-ish. So I recently traded away the 110 George Pickens to a Steelers fan, and I think a third for a win now team, and I got Jahmyr Gibbs. And I am excited because to me that 109, 110 is probably Adonai Mitchell-ish, right? Somewhere in that range.
That's beautiful.
In a super flex format. So I'm all about it.
So wait, so 110? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Super flex.
110, George Pickens, and a third, and you got
Gibbs.
Jahmyr Gibbs. That's I like it.
2 days after the Deontay trade. So just trying to strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah, maximize the news cycle, dude. Dynasty it's just a market, and values are going up and down every single day, and you just got to be plugged in and paying attention to the news.
And I think just to double down on what you said, the market is arbitrary. I mean, we have rankings,
yeah.
We have all that stuff, but no one has an exact amount. So any website you go to or any trade calculator is us just saying, we think this is what they could be worth. And it's like, whatever actually plays out in the next couple of years is going to be different. You know, Michael Thomas, whatever. Like, you're going to see a player valued a certain way. We think it's going to go a certain way. And the same thing with Justin Jefferson. We've talked about that on the podcast. Like, okay, I thought this is how it's going to go. I thought Kirk Cousins was going to re-sign with them.
Right. He
didn't. And so that obviously changes how we view him. Addison, Mike, you talked about that on the main show. So we don't know.
It's great. You know, just thinking about it now of when the dynasty window, when you're trying to get a player on your team, usually, for me at least, I'm saying I'm hoping for 3 years, and that's kind of the window that you're trying to get. Sometimes you need a 1-year rental. That totally makes sense. But overall, you're like, I want a guy who I know I'm going to have. He's a part of this roster for 3 years. And the truth is, the dynasty market is like, it is not a long-term market. It is a very short-term, narrow-minded market that gets influenced by one sentence from a coach that then gets reported on by the media, and we completely change how we see a player. So just embrace the chaos and ride the market, man. Use it to your advantage.
Like, if you were talking to your past self from a month ago and said, hey, what about Tyjae Spears? How do you view him? You know, he was kind of seen as a top 15-ish running back, same year prior. Dameon Pierce, he's kind of in that top 15. We don't see anybody else here that's going to compete. And so things change very rapidly. I'll share my picks. And for the most part, the way that we play Dynasty is we only really talk about a couple of our leagues because, I don't know, some people play it differently. If you're one of those degenerates that says, I want to play in 30 Dynasty leagues, props to you.
Yeah, go for it.
My brain might break.
That is wild. That is wild to even think about.
My wife and my kids would leave me personally. But so there's a couple of main ballers leagues that we talk about, and I am the co-manager with Jeremy, Al Borland, and we have the 101. So we are very excited.
Yeah.
Whoever we take, that could be.
NFL draft is going to screw you guys up.
I know. We're
is this super flex, Kyle, or one quarterback?
This is one quarterback. We have a good young core with Puka. We got Tank Dell. I mean, we got some boys, JSN, and whoever we take at 101. So we're rebuilding.
It's not bad.
I'm also in that Dino Junior League with Mike, and I am in the same spot where I've said screw those picks for years. I have literally punted it for 5 years in a row. But I do have a super flex league where I have the 103, and I have no idea what the two people are going to do before me. Like, some of them have quarterback needs where they could take Caleb Williams. It could go wide receiver. So it's one of those things, and we'll talk about that in a second. Like, your league is different than any other league. You know, you could look at it and say, oh, I have the 103, and therefore this is what this pick is based on ADP. But the two teams ahead of you have a different roster construction than anybody else out there with the first two picks. So just keep in mind, when we talk about certain values or certain names, every league is different, and you get to think about it that way.
Did you guys talk about the addition of Keenan Allen on the Chicago Bears?
We talked about the Chargers fallout, and then we talked about what it means for Caleb Williams. But
okay, we just wanted to. I wasn't here to give my thoughts, but just because I've been really just cautious, where I'm trying to have people be a little more cautious on Caleb Williams. Yes, he's the second coming. He's the next great prospect, but for fantasy football, if you're not giving us juice with your legs, it's really difficult to become an elite fantasy quarterback as just a pocket passer. But the addition of Keenan Allen is so massive. It is so gigantic to me to what Caleb Williams can be with two true number one wide receivers, and of course floating in the background is possibly like Odunze at number 9. Or is that where they are? They have the 9th pick as well.
9.
I mean, when you're thinking about DJ Moore and a rookie, yeah, I'm excited for Caleb Williams. I'm still going to be cautious. You give me DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and the rookie, and that's like, holy crap, man. I mean, he has a 101 been drafted to a better offensive situation for week 1? I mean, that's out
almost never.
Two true number 1 wide receivers, and then potentially a superstar rookie. That's so freaking wild.
It's it's crazy too when you think about rookie quarterbacks, and I've kind of for a long time kind of grouped them together, but you're right, Mike. Like we have to think about him a little differently in the situation and with the offensive coordinator. Shane Waldron's kind of been a more pass happy guy where usually like, they're going to run the ball more because it's a rookie quarterback. So the situation's great. And then looking back, I started to look at trends for rookie quarterbacks in different buckets. It's like you can go all the way back to like, the 2000s, like Eli Manning and Ben Roethlisberger, and those teams function a certain way. The last 5 years, teams are letting rookie quarterbacks throw more and more and more, where we kind of have to like realize this is a different NFL that's using 3 wide receivers on the field a lot more. So at the end of the day, like I thought I would come into this and say, okay, I could see where this isn't going to work for fantasy, but if they let him throw 35 times a game, that's pretty wild, like for a rookie quarterback to see that type of volume. So Betz, any thoughts on Williams? Because I think we've kind of done the roller coaster and the last week or two has been kind of up.
Yeah, it's hard not to view it that way with the moves that they made. And, a lot of the Bryce Young discussion from this past offseason was like, yeah, that's great they took him, but like, how was he set up to succeed? And we kind of made jokes on the show about like how silly it is that they were like, he's such a good processor. Like we don't need to invest high-end wide receivers. Like the Bears are like, no, we know there's a learning curve from college to the NFL. So let's give you 2 superstar wide receivers. And oh, by the way, Cole Kmet's not a bad pass catching tight end.
Sure.
And let's also bring in one of, I don't know that he's as incredible as we maybe thought he would be in the NFL, but a very good pass catching running back in DeAndre Swift, right? So like they're just, all their moves are saying we want you to succeed and we're trying to support that. So it's hard not to be excited about that situation.
Let's take a quick break and then we'll talk about these tips. We got 6 hot tips for you. Hot tips, got them.
Hot tips.
Mike, I'm going to let you start first because this is...
okay, I better get back to the show,
Switching
Doc.
it up.
This is like when you catch someone off guard when they're like you're doing the popcorn reading.
Yeah.
In school.
Oh, that was the worst, dude.
Got him.
PTSD over here.
Oh, man. What a monster. Okay, but my tip for the rookie draft is, a normal rookie draft is 3 rounds or 4 rounds, and then you have the super degents are like, I'm drafting 5 rounds of rookies. Like, get a hold of your life. But mine it relates to, I really want to drive this point home of paying attention through the entire draft, because the waiver wire running, like the first run after the draft, is so incredibly valuable, because players that you would, like, I've had players where I've had like a second round value on that player, and they get to the waiver wire, and it's like, dude, you got to go. Rookie picks are all about quantity to me, because we can be so sure that we're all sending Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Hall of Fame. Like,
to the moon.
It's basically been done by all of us, guilty as charged. He could be a catastrophe. Like, there is a world that exists where you're not sure about any single player. So it's all about taking shots, and it's all about also understanding the value of positional. Like, if you draft a tight end, more likely than not, huge percentage, I would say, you're going to be waiting on that player. So using higher draft capital picks on those types of players, it can feel kind of bad. But 3rd round tight ends make it all the time to the waiver wire. They're probably not going to work, but they make it through all the time. And like these day 3 backup running guys, you know that's a backup running back, but they make it through. And these players are probably going to give you a couple starts, and manufacturing a couple starts off of the waiver wire is so gigantic to what your dynasty roster can do to compete through the season. So it's you have to be ready, and by ready I mean like have your rankings, who are you going to prioritize, know who you're going to jump on if they actually make it through to the waiver wire. Because Kyle gave us a few examples of just this past year. Puka did not get drafted. Puka Nacua, the best rookie wide receiver in terms of total yardage, did not get drafted in the first 3 rounds because he was a 5th round NFL draft pick. It makes sense. but he went through. Dontavian Wicks for the Green Bay Packers, who he could be their wide receiver 3. Like, that guy looks like he can ball. Demario Douglas, Keaton Mitchell, all of those guys gave usable weeks for a dynasty roster. A couple years ago, if you had the stones to hold on to Kyron, I mean, he was a player who did not get drafted. Isaiah Likely, Isaiah Pacheco for some. Like, Pacheco got like a good amount of steam for places, but there were rosters where he didn't get drafted. Like our league, 3 rounds, he didn't make it because he was a
7th round.
A 7th round running back. Is the odds of him hitting are so low. But just have your plan in place and be ready. Do not sleep on and it's that first initial run is where the highest odds players are going to be there, and they're just there to be taken. I mean, imagine you can. It depends on your fab system, of course, but imagine being able to just pay 20, 30, whatever fab, and you get an extra, you get a compensatory pick right at the end of the draft. That's incredible value. Look at the NFL teams who are really successful. Like the Ravens for years they would destroy people with compensatory picks because they'd let their guys walk, they'd recoup draft value, and they knew how to work the system. So buying extra draft picks off the waiver wire is, you got to be aggressive and go make it happen.
I think the hardest part that managers have, myself included, is looking at my roster and going, well, I've been holding on to this veteran, and I kind of think that there could be a path.
Sure.
At the end of the day, there's probably on most teams, and I'm looking at a lot of my dynasty rosters, like there's probably 2 to 3 guys right now that will not be on your roster within 4 to 5 weeks. They're not going to compete. They're not going to do anything. So yes, you might get some wrong, but the payoff of some of these guys who we haven't seen and the volatility is so worth it. I mean, that's what we preach all the time in fantasy football is uncertainty is a really good thing. And for these guys, we don't know who they're going to be. So last year we talked about Puka, in, I think it was like June or July, and just said, hey, we don't know if this could work. This could be nothing, but this depth chart stinks. And we think that there's at least some unknown better than Van Jefferson or anybody else out there. So we weren't saying Puka's going to be the best ever, but the chance of just having anybody contribute is better than a lot of guys that are just sitting on your team and probably will do nothing.
Embracing the uncertainty is such a good way to put it because it's what you think about it statistically. I don't have the numbers right in front of me. But it's like, who's more likely to hit? A player that are they good or are they bad? You have no idea. Or a veteran who's now going into year 4 or something like that, who who he is as an NFL player. Who's more likely to take a jump in value and actually produce for fantasy football? The guy who's shown NFL teams for 3 years who he is, or a player we just have no idea? And it can be the scarier thing. Especially in Dynasty, if you've held a player. We all know that feeling of you've held a player and you go, I'm going to drop him, and because I have dropped him, this player will now become excellent in the NFL, and he will get picked up by another Dynasty roster, and little insignificant me, I am the reason, the spark for this player's resurgence. It's not going to happen. So take shots. Like, have those roster spots that are, if you're just looking at a veteran going, no, this player it's a veteran wide receiver like Van Jefferson. That's a perfect one where I held on to Van Jefferson for just so long. I clung on to that draft capital, him being on Sean McVay's team. Like, what are his stats? Oh, they're terrible. But it could happen. Like it's just the wrong way to think about it. You got to be forward thinking. Don't play scared. Lean into the uncertainty that you don't know if a player is good or not compared to that this player is they aren't a difference maker.
Such a good underrated tip, I think, when I've had that feeling too. It's like, I don't want to drop this guy. Maybe it could happen, man. Maybe this is the year. I would encourage everyone to go read Marvin's Dynasty Life Cycle articles.
Oh, it's fantastic.
All the breakouts. I mean, it's by year 3 at the absolute latest, right? So it's like, man, if you haven't done it in a couple years, do not be afraid to move on. I was just looking at one of my rosters, it's a 30-man roster, so you've got pretty deep, roster spots. It's like, I'm looking at a team. I've got, I don't know, Josh Kelly on this team.
What?
Right? That's not necessary. Michael Carter, right? Like those guys, get rid of those guys. And I haven't really done like a full, sleep after the season, but get rid of those guys. They will not hurt you on someone else's team, and you could get Dontavian Wicks or Puka or Demario Doug, the names we already mentioned. So such an underrated aspect, I think, of Dynasty Rookie Drafts.
I think the wide receivers are the hardest one because you look at certain guys like, but he's going to get snaps, like a fringe guy that I've literally, picked up and dropped 30 times. It feels like over the last couple of years, Justin Watson. It's like, he could catch a long one and it's Patrick Mahomes and things could go well. Or, Matt Collins, the Falcons don't have a wide receiver too. Let's pick him up last year. It's like, those are all the guys that we know who they are. And for the most part, you can move on. So yeah, give me a lottery ticket. Give me 4 or 5 of them. That's what Mike's saying. So Betz, go next.
Yeah, I'm going to just actually switch it up the order on you guys a little bit. I'm going to give my second one because I think it ties into what I was talking about when we were talking about what rookie picks we have in our leagues and stuff like that. And I talked about this a little bit, I think on 2 or 3 episodes ago, just as hey, here's a quick tip, but I really want to dive into it deeper because I do think it helps you in trades. And what I'm going to talk about is assigning a rookie an actual name or names, you'll have a range of a couple guys, to the picks that you have in a rookie draft. And the way you do that, of course, is by looking at people's rankings. You can look at ADP to get a sense of like who is actually going to be on the board when you pick. Because when you look at the 108, to 110 range in one quarterback leagues, it's probably guys like Troy Franklin, Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, maybe Caleb Williams, and it's like those guys are all good prospects, but they've got flaws for sure, right? They're not the same quality as like Marvin Harrison, obviously, Malik Neighbors, those guys. The 202 to 207 range, I mean, these are dart throws. Like Xavier Legette, Blake Corum, we're not sure, right? Lab McConkey, yeah, we like the tape, but he didn't do anything in college. Like Keon Coleman, there's so many guys that you can poke holes in the back first, early second round range. And if you actually put a name to it, you kind of just take a sip of reality and you're like, maybe this pick isn't worth as much as my league mates think it's worth. And when you go to someone, you say, hey, I'll offer you what I did, George Pickens and the 109. And it's like, oh man, I'm getting the 109 this year.
I'm
like,
getting
this
a
is going to be
first.
great. I'm getting a first, like, and a super flex, so it really is earlier than you think. Just assign a name to it and get a realistic outcome of what you think. And so for me, I was like, hey, it's probably an Adonai Mitchell, Troy Franklin type of pick there. I see the case for those guys, but Troy Franklin, didn't have a great combine, super underweight. Adonai Mitchell didn't produce in college, like straight up, and people are still like, Adonai Mitchell could be the guy. So I'm just trying to take advantage of the excitement of, hey, my league mates think they're getting a complete difference maker where we know the first round rookie hit rate is kind of 50-50. And in the second round, it falls off a cliff, which is what I talked about on last year's episode for this. So I would encourage people to assign a name to your rookie picks. Gives you a more realistic outcome, I think, for your guy.
I find so much that when we're just talking about picks and we're just saying, I got a first. Like, did you get a first or did you get the 108? And that's the scary thing when you're trading away players during the season is it's just this ambiguous idea of a first, of just like this hope of like, I'm going to get the 102. So like the trade that Mike didn't make, like, I'm sure you didn't think this is going to be a top 3 pick.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that when we look at trades, and I see them all the time in our Discord, it's like, would you rather have, this player or the 108? It's like, okay, so let me just think about this real quick. The player you're telling me or a list of 4 players at the 108. It's just as simple as that. Like the numbers are great, but at the end of the day, like I need to put names or else I'm going to go in 30 different directions of the possibilities when Betz said, like, who's really there? I don't know, dart throws?
I mean, one example that we got from Discord of someone was talking about Saquon Barkley or the 109 in a Superflex league. And it's like, okay, we know the situation now for Barkley. We know the contract. We know the team, all that stuff. And it's the 109. You're like, okay, yeah, I like the prospects that are there, but would any of us be surprised if next year we look back and we're like, the back of the first didn't hit the way we thought it would? Of course not, right? So that's another example of I'd take Barkley in that scenario, especially if I'm trying to win now.
I mean, you're not putting Trey Benson's name in there, Betz.
Well. We'll see.
You put Trey Benson's name in there, and then it's a lopsided landslide for the rookie pick.
I would still take Barkley.
I would still take Barkley, too.
I would, too. How early do we think Benson goes? Just a guess. This doesn't have to be
NFL or
super
rookie?
NFL.
I'm going to put Trey Benson in the I think someone will take him in the back of the second.
That's what I was going to say. The last 10 picks of the second round, somewhere in there.
Okay, I was going to put the line at 50. Let's call it 50 and a half. So
I would take over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get that early, second round where Swift and Jonathan Taylor and all that stuff. But
for the sake of my pants collection, that cannot happen, guys. Or I'll have to
show
go
up to
buy
the draft with your steel undies on, Mike.
Well, I'm always wearing those, but I'm just saying.
Of course.
I would have to buy all brand new pants if Trey Benson was a really high second round pick.
Honey, we're going shopping.
Honey, this is really unfortunate. See, let me explain this to you, honey. This player, he got drafted, and so
all my pants they all lit in flames. What am I supposed to do?
Incinerated. That'd be great. I gotta get new pants. I will go next, and this one I'm calling use historical data as a suggestion, not gospel. So we've kind of had this conversation. Andy has been on his what's the best word? Not a kick. He's been focused on this analytics conversation.
He is much older now.
Oh yeah, that's true.
He crossed
old.
He crossed the 40 threshold, and he enjoys. He uses analytics, but if anyone's going to be grouchy about them, it's going to be him.
I gave you props when we were recording, but Mike, you made some great prostate jokes the other day on. It
was so good.
I was dying on the main show. Anyway, make sure you check out Tuesday's episode. But Andy's been talking about this, and we've been having some conversations behind the scenes of when we talk about historical data, over the last 10 years, this percentage of this position has done that. I talk about that a lot. It's part of my process, and I think it's what I feel pretty good about is I can look at the historical data and spit out some numbers. Here's what people have done. The problem is when we give data like that, it is a suggestion. It is not, this is going to happen to this player. I think that's a lot of times what we hear is the statistic we always give. 70% of the time, rookie quarterbacks don't support high-end rookie wide receiver production. And CJ Stroud took that stat and he punched it in the face.
Yep.
Now, over the course of time, that stat has been true. That stat's been going back since, 2004. So it's that stat is true, but there will be exceptions every single year. And so I bring this up because with rookie picks, it's very easy for us to look at certain players and to bring in historical data without just taking a step back. And I'm going to use a word that I've been using with Andy, and it is stats can be orthogonal. It's a fun word.
Oh,
it's my vocabulary word.
That's that thing
day.
for your feet, right?
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
And what it just means is it means that a stat is statistically independent of somebody else actually playing football. For instance, Caleb Williams is going to be the number one pick. He's going to play for the Bears. He's a Heisman winner. There's a bunch of different buckets that you could put him in, but guess what? The Bears' history at quarterback doesn't actually affect his performance in 2024.
Yeah.
What Jay Cutler did 10 whatever years ago, or their coach, Mark Trestman, 15 years ago, and every single quarterback the Bears have ever, it doesn't affect what he's actually doing. This is a completely different set. So we use stats as kind of coloring in the details, and here's all the buckets that Caleb Williams is in. He's a number one pick. Here's what the number one picks have done. And, it's hit or miss, right? Bryce Young, first round quarterbacks, Bears quarterbacks, but they don't actually affect how he does. Same thing with Patriots. We were like, oh, they really suck at drafting wide receivers. And for the most part,
they do.
They've been terrible. If they were to take Marvin Harrison, though, that has no effect on actually his performance as a new coaching regime. And hopefully, unless guys, you think that there's a witch doctor whose sole job is to curse Patriots wide receivers. So I bring all of that up just to say that when we look at certain players and we look at quarterbacks in Superflex, that's kind of been something I've looked at a lot. The hit rate, or the amount of times somebody's actually been good for fantasy, 17 plus points, that's what I'm calling, is 54%. If you are a quarterback drafted in the first round of a rookie draft, it's pretty much a 50-50 bet. And so you have to ask yourself that question when you're in a draft. this could work out based on this historical data. It could not, but it's part of the puzzle. We don't just use that as here's the one stat I need to draft a quarterback. There's so much more. Now, if you want to go even further, only 38% ever even had a top 6 season. So it's almost more of like a 1/3 to 40% chance that you get a really elite season from these top end quarterbacks. So knowing that, it should change a little bit how we draft, but it's not the only thing. So we use historical data as probability. This is a game. And if there's too many of those that pile up, then it's like a bunch of red flags and we move on. But one red flag or 2 red flags, like we don't just completely write somebody off. So, I just want there to be nuance. We don't just take one stat on Twitter and say, this guy now sucks. Because I got a lot of backlash from Panthers fans. They did not like that I brought up that Bryce Young was not good last year.
Well, he was not good last year.
He was not so good.
Breaking news. Look at the stats, buddy.
But it doesn't mean he can't be good next year, right? We can use the stat as just one thing. So let's take a break and we'll get to our next stats. Mike's back, and he's going to give us another hot tip.
So it'll be funny because it works a little counterintuitive to what Betz is talking about, but which I agree with him of assigning names to rookie picks. But you got to be a little bit careful because people are people, and people are crazy compared to what you think they should be doing. And sometimes they pick players that you had no idea that it was about to happen. And different leagues can be so different, comparing and contrasting. So the 2 leagues we talked about, the 2 ballers, the Dino Senior and Dino Junior, the first round was so different in both of them, where in the Dino Junior, we saw 3 quarterbacks go. 3 quarterbacks went in the first round.
In a 1 quarterback league,
it was
wild.
So Anthony Richardson went, then Zay Flowers went to Jason and I, and then it was Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. Those were the next picks. And you know who was after that? Zach Charbonnet. Which in my other Dynasty League, Zach Charbonnet was the 106. So, I mean, from the 106 to the 110, that's a pretty big difference in that first round of who's going where. So we're saying, just be aware that wild card things do happen. You can't necessarily Sharpie, and that's why you need to have a group of names. You can't be looking at the 109, and Betz wasn't going, well, it's the 109, so ADP says that Ladd McConkey is here. That would be the pick. Like, no, you have to have a group of names because people do crazy stuff all the time, and they draft players that you think they should not have. So it's just it's a short tip, but realizing that, and just because one rookie draft went one way, that's just kind of a guideline. Your next rookie draft may be turned completely on its head, and it can get turned on its head by one pick. Like when you are trying to forecast the NFL draft and you put one wrong wide receiver on a team, it's just a cascading effect of, well, now everything I predicted was wrong. Same thing can happen in your rookie draft of, I am so sure that this player is going to be there at 104, and then that player goes 103, and then everything is just a catastrophe according to what your plan said was going to happen. So don't have a marker Sharpied in plan. Have multiple different outs and think about things of who could possibly be picked. So, just the last year's another example. Devon Achane went at the 108 in the Dino Senior, the 112 in the Dino Junior. I mean, imagine if you were at the back of the first, like everything was locked in. I'm going to get Achane. There's no way he could go earlier, and then he's gone. And now your entire plan has just exploded. So be aware that don't concrete in plans just yet. Don't etch them into stone. Have multiple different outs of knowing where you're going to go. And the nice thing about a rookie draft is it's 3 rounds. So this isn't like your redraft where you have to have a Charlie from Always Sunny spiderweb with yarn everywhere of this is what I'm going to do if this happens. No, you can plan out 3 rounds and have multiple different plans in place.
There's a blessing and a curse of mock drafting, which is, yes, you get tons of practice and hopefully you get practice of doing the same thing. The other side of it is that if you're used to getting the same player over and over, you go, oh, I've done enough practice. It's just how it goes. But there's a big piece of the puzzle we have no idea yet, and that's the NFL draft. So I think especially with running backs every year, we underestimate how teams are just desperate. And I've seen it in some of these leagues where it's like, I just have to have somebody. And, if you're one of those people that got HN at the very back of the first round, you're like, okay, so maybe it wasn't there for ADP, but man, what a jolt to your roster that you have somebody with that type of upside. You could see that this year, that there's a couple running backs right now nobody's mocking in their rookie drafts at the back of the first. You're like, well, he kind of got second round draft capital, and yes, wide receivers are a better bet, but I need a running back. And it's like, when push comes to shove, people do desperate things in dynasty leagues, especially in rookie drafts. So be open. I think that's what you're saying, Mike, is like, don't just write them in right now as this is what's going to happen.
Exactly.
All right, Betsy.
Love it. All right. Rookie drafts, they're hard to get right, man. They're really hard to get right.
Yeah.
And actually, Kyle and I have done some research on this with Best Ball, if you're into that, over on the DFS and betting show, that the market is, becomes very efficient as you get through the summer, as you get more information, where guys are going, the injuries that have happened in training camp, et cetera, et cetera. The market does become pretty efficient. It's not perfect. But we're trying to do that same thing in a very small sample with about 36 picks, if you do 3 rounds, of rookies that we truthfully have no idea, right, where they're going to go. So my tip is, don't be afraid to question the consensus that everyone else out there has is, this is the order that picks should go. If you stray off of it by 2 or 3, you're going to look silly on social media. Look, we get rookie draft picks wrong every single year, right? I mean, Quentin Johnson last year, Bryce Young last year. There's so many misses that happen every single year. If you have conviction on a player because you like their profile, their breakout age, stuff like that, over another guy that, again, air quotes, consensus around the industry says this guy should be higher, take your guy. Don't be afraid to reach around, a pick or 2 on your guy. Not around.
Got to.
Easy.
You got
not
to.
around. A pick or 2 on your guy. I'm just looking at, a couple years. This is ADP from the last 3 years. Drafts that went from April to August, so after the NFL draft, over on my fantasy league. And I'm looking at the early to middle second round. It's like everyone after that was like, hey, I'm taking Jonathan Mingo because he went second overall. But it's like, or second round rather, to Carolina, and they have a need. And it's like, okay, well, let's just take a step back. Jonathan Mingo was a 4-year player with second round draft capital that's going to play with a rookie quarterback that literally didn't break out until he was a senior, who, by the way, was outproduced by Malik Heath, who was undrafted. So yes, the NFL liked this guy's traits, but he didn't really produce in college. So why are we forcing him up draft boards when there's other guys sitting below him that have just as good, if not better, profiles? Same thing happened in 2022.
You're making a good point here, Betz. You're making a good point.
Yeah, go ahead.
But what if I liked Jonathan Mingo?
Well, see, that's the problem, Mike. Is
I thought it was going to work.
You forgot to say, what if I'm wrong?
Yeah.
And in 2022, we did the exact same thing, right? With Sky Moore. It's like, oh man, if you were cool, you'd like Sky
Moore. It's the
Moore.
freaking Chiefs.
It's the Chiefs. He's gonna be good. Let's
are
team
they
him
doing?
up to the 8th overall pick, which is crazy in hindsight. But in the actual time it happened, we should have said, are we sure about this? Because yes, we liked the stuff that he had in his profile, but the NFL told us what he probably was going to be. He was the 13th wide receiver off the board in the NFL draft, not in our drafts, in the NFL draft. Yet everyone was like, oh man, this is the guy. So just be careful with the consensus, because oftentimes it is incorrect and these rookie drafts are wild. So don't be afraid to go off the board a little bit is my advice.
I think to piggyback on that, just the way that we talk about draft picks, because it's draft equity is truly it's the most important thing when it comes to actual hit rate of having a higher probability chance. It is your draft equity. But we are so locked into, well, this was a first round pick. This was a second round pick instead of, like you said, Betz, he was the 13th wide receiver. That was just a loaded wide receiver class, but he was the 13th one. And then we juiced him up because of his where he landed.
The Chiefs.
Yeah, he went to the Chiefs. So
yeah,
he should be drafted like he was the 5th wide receiver drafted in the NFL draft. So I think that's just a context for us that we need to make sure we are putting into, not just throwing out, well, he was a second round pick. He was in the middle of the second. Well, how many of his particular position, how many were taken before him? Because that also says a lot about a player that should factor into your analysis.
I see you guys just want to be contrarian. You got to just follow what everyone else is doing. That is some of the best advice I could give anybody in life.
Just do what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, just follow and just. I'm with you guys, dear Lord. Just question it all. I love it.
Is there a guy, before we get into the next one, is there a guy in this class that already kind of has you like, are we sure about that? That like he's already getting a lot of love. Obviously, we don't have draft capital, but the guy that you're a little bit less optimistic on in the market?
Gosh, trying to protect myself from giving a hot take.
Just give it, man. If it's hot, it's fine.
We got time. It can change.
My first thought is just that I think Odunze is good. I think he also benefited from being in a system that a lot of these defenses are just so bad, man. Like, I just look at metrics across the board. I see him on Twitter. It's like, oh, he was so good in this area. It's like, in context, though, he was able to just do the bully ball over and over again. Just like, I'm bigger, faster, stronger than you. And so it's hard for me to look at some of these cornerbacks he was facing and say, that's going to work in the same exact way. So I'm more questioning, is he locked in as not only the third wide receiver, but like he goes ahead in a one quarterback league? Because it's kind of like in my mind, Marvin Harrison, Neighbors, Odunze, and then, okay, so now what do I need to figure out next? And I feel like that's just locked in my brain, but I'm starting to just question it a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair.
I would say Keon Coleman. Wait, I mean,
what if he's good?
No, yeah. Fair. No, just he's a very polarizing player because so much of it is there. So much, but we'll see what the NFL draft says about him.
I'll give you mine. This guy's going in round 1, which is going to be scary. And I think for me, that's going to be a huge thing when we get to rookie drafts, is where do you actually put Adonai Mitchell? I feel like I'm being mean to him on the show. I'm not trying to be, but like he's the guy to me where it's like, dude literally was like 1.72 yards per route run in college. His dominator rating is only because of touchdowns. Everyone's talking about him. It's like, well, you watch the tape, he takes a couple plays off here and there, but when he tries, this guy is good. And he might be better in the pros than in college. When has that ever failed before in the past, right? Like we've seen this story.
Never.
The old Randy Moss.
after year after year. And it's like, he feels like such a trap to me this year. So he's a guy that I'm definitely questioning a little bit.
We brought this up before. I know, Betz, when we just talk about looking at offenses, but like we're very open to the fact of someone just like being amazing if we're like have some thoughts like, oh, I'm optimistic about this player. It's very hard for us to be open to the fact like we could almost be wrong, and not just like wrong like, oh, I'm not that good, but like wrong on a couple different levels for players. And so we just know that this first round, okay, it's probably gonna be 50-50 for fantasy football. And that's crazy to us right now because we're at the point in the season where everything's awesome.
Right.
But the reality is that
everything's not awesome.
It was not so cool.
But Sky Moore was not awesome.
I want to give one more tip, and I'm calling it landing spot immunity because right now we don't know that part of the equation, minus Caleb Williams. And I feel like that changes so much. Like, and I get it. Like there's things that will change in my mind and in my projections over the next month because I get to attach this player to a team and a system and like, oh, I like this, coach. I like this offensive system. But I'm really forgetful. Maybe you guys are really smart, but I'm an idiot when it comes to learning from my past mistakes about landing spots and what it does. So we have a great article on the website if you want a full look at this from Matt DeSorbo, one of our former writers, sadly, one of our former writers. He's just doing Harvard PhD thing.
He's doing smart people stuff.
And we're talking about his stuff still. It's crazy. But he wrote an article called What Matters More for Rookies, Skill or Landing Spot? And he looked mostly at the first year from more of a redraft perspective, but we know we get a lot of information in year one. Can this player play? Do they matter? And so from the major positions, I'll just quickly hit running backs. He looked at 195 different running backs, a lot of data. And he found that it's the most opportunity-based position and that skill and landing spot mattered the exact same amount. And he quantified skill as what points were there and landing spot as what left. What was the opportunity? Like if, Todd Gurley was gone from the Rams, all of a sudden there's this really good landing spot. And it makes sense. Running back, you have the shortest window, right? You get,
yeah.
You get 4 years for a contract, but let's be honest, it feels like it's 2 to 4 years of really, can you show what you're going to do? So it's really easy to overvalue landing spot with running back because we're just desperate. Anybody that gets day 2 draft capital, we just want to jump on board. And I've been guilty of this. The best example, and Mike's going to cry his eyes out, is CEH. And I'm not just using this as this happened to Mike. This happened to everybody in the Dynasty world. Post-Combine, CEH was the RB4 in rookie drafts. Okay, so like in this window right now, he's RB4. We liked CEH. We just wasn't sure the landing spot. But then in rookie draft, he went all the way to the 101 ahead of Jonathan Taylor because, and I'm literally pulling a quote from an article that was on NFL.com. I don't know if you've heard of NFL. It's a big deal. 2021 or 2020 NFL draft. Clyde Edwards-Helaire lands in perfect spot to make fantasy impact with Chiefs.
Yeah. He was the RB1 in the draft. He was a first-round pick. He went to the Kansas City Chiefs, who desperately needed a running back.
And remember, there was the whole thing about it was like, Mahomes hand-picked this guy.
Yeah.
He said, I have to have CEH.
Yeah, we did. We had some anecdotal stuff built in there as well. And what we all forgot was the skill part of the equation. And like the Sorb was talking about, it's equally important.
Yes. And this isn't to say, CH was a bad pick. This is more to say, obviously in light of everything, wasn't it? But it's weighing both. It's not overvaluing the landing spot and undervaluing the skill. It's saying, what is your skill evaluation beforehand? And if the landing spot matches it, then that's even better. So they kind of can work together. Wide receiver, he looked at 241 different wide receivers. Skill was twice as strong as the landing spot. And that makes a ton of sense to me that you can see wide receivers in really bad landing spots, but if they just crushed, and a lot of these players are going to places where their teams suck. Like if you're getting drafted in the early, top 15, right, your teams were probably not that good. But if they could beat zone coverage in college, we would say maybe that skill will translate in the NFL. Vice versa. If you suck at against zone, you can't sit in zone consistently, or you have bad hands in college, it's really hard to do that. Now, there's players like Jalen Waddle, where we looked at the landing spot. The draft capital was there. The skill we liked. But the Dolphins, we don't really know about Tua. Mm-hmm. Yes, they have the chemistry, but like he fell all the way to 110 in rookie drafts because we didn't like the landing spot. But nobody questioned the skill. What's crazy is I looked up N'Keal Harry because I took him at the 102 in a rookie draft, okay? Right after Josh Jacobs.
I bet you were so pumped too.
Oh, I have a wide receiver with Tom Brady, and we know that Tom Brady's great, and I found this quote from an article from a major site. Great site, but I'm just going to quote it without saying the name. Paired with a quarterback like Tom Brady, who has pinpoint accuracy, Harry won't need to separate early in his routes. He likely couldn't have found a better landing spot. New England desperately needed pass catchers, and Harry is a solid value here.
Yep, I would have agreed. I would have agreed wholeheartedly back when it happened.
Yeah, and so what was easier for us is to, double count the landing spot. We double counted, said, oh, this is even better than what we were going to think. This is a really good team. And the last thing with quarterbacks, a bad landing spot is probably the strongest across all the positions because you're being drafted on the worst teams in football. And Caleb Williams is an exception because this is a different team. But like last year, Bryce Young went to a team that was pretty void of a lot of, talent. And even worse, they traded away draft capital, so they probably wouldn't be good for the next couple of years. I found another quote. Here are 6 reasons why the Panthers are the ideal landing spot for the former Crimson Tide quarterback. My point in all of this is to say landing spot is important, but we want players that are immune from it. Okay, it's a good addition if it happens, but it shouldn't count over the skill, especially at the quarterback position and especially a wide receiver. Like wide receiver, I'm just going to mostly lean 90% skill, and over time, the good players work out. The one exception to that is Terrace Marshall Jr. He was supposed to be great. He could have been great, and no one really knows.
But was he drafted to be great is the key question.
I don't only bring second round, just like Mingo. Now, Jason and I were talking about him yesterday. Jason goes, "Can I cut him?" I go, "Jason, listen to me. I've cut him from teams, so you can." So those are our tips. We'll have them on the website if you want to get the full list and kind of break them down as you got a month leading up to your rookie draft. But we do have one more segment.
Take it or leave it.
We're going to give a parting thought. Could be worth nothing, or probably what's best for us is it could be worth so much and we could look really smart, a couple months from now. So that's really the payoff for this podcast. That's the payoff in podcasts in general, is it's just a fleeting thought. And if somebody remembers it, you're like, oh yeah, totally. I was totally on that player. So Betz, give me a dart throw name that's currently not being drafted in the first 3 rounds for the most part of rookie drafts, or at least back of the third. That could be nothing, but at least you want people to monitor right now.
Yeah, these are the guys that Mike was talking about. Like after the draft, scoop these guys up, and you never know what's going to happen. Jermaine Burton is a wide receiver out of Alabama.
Mike likes him.
Kyle,
you like him, Mike?
Yeah, I was trying to find the screenshot for you where I messaged Kyle. When was this? February 27th. I said new dark horse wide receiver I like, Jermaine Burton.
And I probably gave some response like, I don't like this guy.
You gave Burton is fine. He was a jag. But
we'll see what the truth is.
The proprietary beta, very in the beta route score that I've mentioned a few times. Burton's is very, very good because his yards per route run.
Yeah,
because he was all deep targets.
Right, yeah, 18 yards per catch in his career. So he is a deep threat. But when's the last time we got to draft a Georgia wide receiver or an Alabama wide receiver that no one cares about, right? Like every year we're like, who's the Alabama wide receiver? Because he went to great schools and produced, especially at Georgia when he was a sophomore.
Just searching for national championships.
Probably.
Oh, hey, what a terrible thing for a kid to do.
I can't fault him. I'll take 4 rings. Yeah, sure. All
he wants to do is win championships. What
so selfish. This kid was second on the team behind Brock Bowers in receiving, and that was a roster that had George Pickens. He only played a handful of games, but George Pickens, James Cook, Zamir White, Adonai Mitchell was on that team. Lad McConkey was on that team. Like, I think there's something there. Now, he fell off a little bit at Alabama. Clearly not a top-tier prospect. The numbers aren't great in terms of like his actual raw production. Like I said, he's more of a deep threat type of guy. But if you go to NFL Mock Draft Database, his current consensus big board is 86th overall, which means this guy might sneak into the 3rd round, and literally no one is talking about him in rookie draft. So keep him on your radar, Jermaine Burton, wide receiver at Alabama.
I like it.
Yeah, the profile is the boom bust deep play guy, but it's so interesting to have a player that plays for those 2 schools as like the NFL feeder schools.
And no one cares.
Yep. I threw out Javon Baker last time. He's like kind of been my dude through and through as like late, see what happens. But I want to throw out Tulane's Jha'Quan Jackson, wide receiver, but special teams ace. And I think a lot of times we care about that. We mentioned that, especially some of the kick return stuff that's changed in the NFL. But he has really good marks against zone, 5'11", 185, mostly a slot guy. And he had Michael Pratt throwing him the ball. Michael Pratt's probably going to get drafted on day 3 out of Tulane. So it's just an interesting player when I'm kind of searching for and mining for gold. I want to find special teams guys who played in the slot, who could have a role and get on the field. So just throwing out the name Jha'Quan Jackson.
And I will throw out Will Shipley. I think we've mentioned him. Yeah, out of Clemson, running back. I think we've mentioned him maybe a handful of times. We did finally get a 40-yard from him. It was I didn't look it up, but I thought it was a 4.44. something right around there, which it's a pro day, so you kind of people have accepted you tack on like a 0.05 onto that. But the point being, that speed is fine. Like, that's what we need. And I think he's a short area twitch and quick guy who has, I like his burst, and he's to me a great pass catcher. So you get, not to overrate. We talked about don't overrate the landing spot, but if there is a team that throws a high quantity of their passes, or a quarterback who is known for checking it down to a running back, and Will Shipley gets there, I think that he should be interesting in your rookie picks, your rookie drafts.
4.39.
Oh, 4.39.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 4.44 was when you add on the you juice it up a little bit because of the pro day, but that is fast enough for me.
Yeah, he's a fun player all around. The pass catching profile was pretty great. There's players like last year, Evan Hull was one of those players. He got hurt, but just like, okay, you see the pass catching profile, you could see him get on the field. He's worth, a speculative ad, so I have no idea where Shipley's going to go. But man, these are fun players to just kind of talk about and say, in the right situation, I could see them being useful for fantasy. It's a small probability, but hey, we're at the point of the season where I'm dying for anybody at running back to help my team. And
speaking of Evan Holt, just give your Dino waiver wire one quick look over. He popped up on ours. I scooped him up immediately, not because I think he's going to start over Jonathan Taylor, but it seems like he's in line to be the backup, and the backup running back for the Colts last year was a pretty valuable guy to have.
Superstar.
Zach Moss. Direct backup running backs in Dynasty, they should always be rostered. So he was there. I felt it was a good investment to stash over this process, because if we get through the NFL draft and they do nothing, Evan Hull's the backup, and you should have backups.
So this is a random tangent, but I went back and I watched some Anthony Richardson stuff the other day, because he was only 4 games.
Yeah.
And Evan Hull popped up at the beginning of the season. I remember a couple of players were like, oh, man, this guy's got some juice, because who was the running back at the beginning of the year? Was it Jackson?
Deion Jackson.
Deion Jackson
fumbled, was terrible in the first game. Taylor wasn't on the team, and Moss, I believe, missed the first week of the season.
Yeah, he was recovering from a broken. Yep.
Yeah. So I was watching the game and I was like, what is Evan Hull doing in this game? And I had to realize the context of it, but he looked pretty good and eventually got hurt. But yeah, that's a great name. Just, hey, throw him on your bench, see what happens.
Is that the first official Nasty Boy of the season?
Evan Hull, he could be.
We're back, boys.
I'm not saying I don't know I don't have a pulse on how people are really feeling about Evan Hull, because I'm sure many are screaming, there's no way that guy would be available in my league. Okay, that's fine. But just check. Just have a little peek. It doesn't hurt you to go look.
Hey, we're in Nasty Boy season. Go for it.
Yeah, we are. About to be.
That's good. That's going to do it for this episode. We will see you again next week. Go to udkplus.com for all the Dynasty Pass.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. If you want to take your Dynasty skills to the next level, check out thefantasyfootballers.com.